Hi there, today I'm going to show you how to build an automation that will alert your team on Slack of items due soon in Notion. Hi there, I'm Andres from Connex and we are an automations and integrations agency. So we help companies like yours automate Slack, Notion, and many more apps. Do you have an automation idea in mind or an integration need? Book a free discovery call using the link in the description below. So I was approached by this shipping company. They manage large contracts and contracts expired and they have everything in Notion. So if they want, they have all information of contracts in Notion available at any time. But their team was working on Slack and it was interesting for them to have Slack notifications of contracts due soon. They reached out and asked for help building this automation. So today I'm going to show you how I approach this integration using Zapier. There are many ways to solve for this. The first idea you may have is to use the schedule by Zapier trigger that will activate every day, every week, or based on your needs, and find database items using that date. Now, the problem is that the Notion find database item on Zapier doesn't return arrays. So if you have more than one contract or more than one item due in that date, this action will only return the first item and not 2, 3, or the many that you may have. So this may be a good and simple approach for that if you have a very few items on Notion. However, I chose to go another route to handle more complex cases. And the main idea to build the Zap I'm going to show you is you need to copy the database you had in Notion somewhere else, be it another database like the Zapier table or Airtable, or you can think about, if you are thinking about reminders, you can choose a calendar as well. So here's the calendar view of those items in Notion. And as you see, I have here a contract expiring the 27th of November. I created a Zap to recreate this database in Google Calendar following the same logic. As you may see, this is, however, happening 1 week in advance because we want to send, for this specific case, notifications 7 days prior. Now, here are the two Zaps I've built for this automation. And let's start with the simple one. Whenever an event is due in Google Calendar, send a channel notification in Slack. And this consists of only one trigger and one action. The trigger event is whenever an event starts in Google Calendar. So you need to connect your Google Calendar app, select event start, connect your calendar, hit continue, and configure this a little bit. So you need to select the calendar here. If you are on Pro plans, you can bring this time before to 1, 2, 3 minutes. Let's do 2. And this is optional, but this is very important. So we don't trigger off of any event, but only those that are meant for reminders on Slack. So the search term is Slack reminder. And this means that every 2 minutes, Zapier will go into the Google Calendar, check for events with this term. Hit continue, and then test trigger. Trigger will bring this kind of information. We have the description of the event, the summary, and the location. So basically, I store all this information beforehand here in the event with this same formatting. So I have this summary here with this keyword Slack reminder, and then I have also in the description of the event all the message that I want to send to Slack. The next step is pretty simple. Send channel message. You connect your Slack account. The action event is send channel message, and in the configuration you choose the channel you want to notify, and here's the formatting of that text. So I'm including what time is it today, a calendar icon, a reminder icon, so it's nice looking. And here I bring in, as you can see, the description from the trigger. So the same exact message here will be shared on Slack. And again, here's an example. There you go. Now I'm going to show you the automation, the Zap that will bring all items in Notion into this Google Calendar. And this is it. Now, before I explain you this in more detail, there is an important piece you need to build in Notion first. Let me show you in Notion. Originally, I had this table. To build this automation, we need two things. First, to add a couple of properties in Notion. One is to store the calendar event ID. This will be very helpful in case you update any of these dates. You want to update Google Calendar events as well. And then this reminder status, because this will be helpful for Zapier to understand if we need to update an event or not, with these options, updated or updating. The second thing you need is to create an automation in Notion. And the automation is pretty simple. Let me open that. It triggers whenever the expiration date is edited, and that set the reminder status to updating. This will become very clear now when I'm going to explain you how this app works. But basically, you can change the date here in Notion, and the Notion automation will update the status to updating. Now in Zapier, this app starts with updated database item. Keep in mind that this trigger will trigger whenever you edit any of the properties in your Notion item. So it can be the date, the calendar ID, the reminder status, or the name. So that's why I put some filter conditions saying, hey, I need the property expiration to exist, the due date to exist basically, and the reminder status needs to be updating. If these filter conditions matches, then Zapier moves forward to the next step, which is formatting the date by Zapier. And this is the second thing you need to keep in mind. Be sure you are using the date and time format for your location. So not to confuse Zapier with the year, month, day, or year, day, month formatting that people in the US usually use. So what we are doing here is preparing the date. We're going to add this event on Google Calendar. And that's, for my specific case, is 7 days before, but this, you can edit the expression you want here, either being 1 day, 3 months before. Is pretty customizable up to the minute. Then I have two paths here, and one is in case the event does not exist, we need to create an event first. The other is if the event exists already, we need to update that event. So the conditions are similar. We just need to change here the calendar event ID does not exist in this case, so we created the detailed event in Google. Otherwise, if the calendar event exists in Notion already, we just need to update the event in Google Calendar. So to create the detailed event, you choose the Google Calendar app, you connect your account, and this is how it looks like. So as I said, in the summary, I'm including this keyword that will be useful for the second zap when it triggers. And then I'm mixing the title of that item, the name of that item in Notion, together with more static text. And again, I'm doing the same for the description. The way to do this is you can type whatever text you want here, and then with this small plus button, you can include properties or variables coming from other steps. So in this case, I can bring in the title, the URL of that item in Notion. This becomes pretty handy, so people in Slack can jump directly into Notion by clicking this link, as well as many other properties. And this is an important piece for the date. The start date and time is set up using the output from step 3, which is the one that is computing the days in advance we need to notify. And then I added this specific text here that says this event starts at 6 a.m. It finished at 6:30, and this piece here is relative to the time zone. I suggest you Googling Zapier time zones to understand a little bit more if you want to learn about this, but basically this is Eastern time. And that's it. The last step is just to store this information into Notion so you get a visual confirmation that this really happened. So for doing that, I'm selecting the update database item action for the Notion app, and there you select the database you want to update as well as the item. Now here you need to select these 3 dots here, be it custom, so this is dynamic. And it changes for every item that you update. Here you need to bring the page ID from step 1. And what I'm editing, I leave everything as it is. I'm just updating here the properties that I want to update, be it the calendar event ID that comes from step 6, the step to create events, and the reminder status is updated. So this will update the calendar event This will trigger Zapier again because of this trigger, but the filter will stop the automation here because the status will be not updated anymore, but updated. Similar thing for the other branch of this automation. If there is a calendar event already in Notion, that means that the event already exists in Google Calendar and we just need to update that event. So the configuration looks pretty much the same. We just need to select the event by informing Zapier the calendar event ID that we already stored in Notion here. And that's it. I leave everything else as it is. I don't edit this. Well, yes, I need to update the date of the calendar, but for the rest, I leave it everything as it is, and as I don't want to touch the summary or the description. Hit continue, and then I update the database item again using the page ID and setting the reminder status to update it. Let's see this in real time. So for client D, I don't have a date here. So I'm going to add this to happen, let's say the 28th of November, and that's it. So now Notion will update this field, and this will trigger Zapier to go create a calendar event in Google and update this item back. So let's put Google and Notion side by side, and there you go. In the meantime, this event was created, and it makes sense to be created the 21st. Actually, we have two events here, one for client C and one for client D, because both happen on the 28th. That was pretty fast. Let's update this to happen instead the 29th and see what happens. Again, Notion will update this field, this property. There you go. The event was moved to the 22nd because it's 7 days prior to 29, and this property was updated accordingly. And there you go. This is how you connect Notion, Slack, and in this case, reminders on Google Calendar to send and notify your team on Slack about events due soon. Need help implementing this? Reach out, comment, subscribe, give me a thumbs up. Until the next tutorial. Cheers.